What's up, y'all? Welcome to the inaugural episode of Make the Art. Today I'm taking you behind the scenes of an epic fashion shoot from start to finish with the Sony A7R III. Let's do it. All right, y'all, so I've had this location in mind for a while. Typically, my shoots either start with like an idea and a concept, or they start with a location that has inspired the sort of idea or concept. This concept was definitely one of those that was inspired by this location. There's a spot about 2 hours outside of Austin called Enchanted Rock, and it's this like epic like mountain. I mean, it's not really a mountain, but it's like a giant rock formation. It looks like you're on Mars. And I had seen just really killer photos from Enchanted Rock and thought that this would be a perfect opportunity, a perfect place to shoot a fashion editorial. So I enlisted the help of my friend Erica Gray, who is a stylist, as well as a hair and makeup artist, to really kind of like talk through this concept and create something that would be really incredible. So that was really the beginning of the idea. By the way, I should mention that I'm wearing a rain jacket because it's like freaking pouring outside. It was like sunny as hell for this shoot, but right now it's definitely monsooning. Okay, y'all, so for future episodes of Make the Art, I have a behind the scenes videographer who's shooting, who is kind of capturing everything that's going on. I'm wearing a lapel mic so you can hear everything that I'm saying, so you guys can actually get like the full experience. This shoot happened like 2 months ago before I had really developed the concept for Make the Art. So I was actually shooting most of the video footage myself. Oh wait, I wasn't even filming. All right, Ricky, Paige, Nada, Erica, family road trip. We're taking off. I think my assistant grabbed the RX0 and caught some behind the scenes because it's hard for me to shoot video and photo at the same time and be focused. But you'll get to see some of the behind the scenes, but just know that in the future episodes, you're gonna get like the full effect. Let's talk inspiration. All right, I'm gonna show you the initial inspiration behind the shoot. I kind of knew what I was going for, but it's also nice to have reference images. So I saved a few images to my Instagram collections, and I'm gonna show you those now. All right, y'all, so here's the Enchanted Rock editorial collection. I actually have misspelled it, Enchanted Talk, which doesn't make any sense. This image I love. Alessio Albi's an incredible photographer. I love that there's just this mood there with her eyes closed. I love the tones of her hair that match the kind of orange of the brush that she's holding on to. This is a really cool image from Lachlan Bailey because it's like pretty similar to the landscape that we're going to. It's a little more grassy, a little more kind of yellowish, but I love this sort of scale of the mountain in the background. I love the mood. Obviously, this is kind of selling the purse, so that's the highlight here with kind of that pop of red, but it's a great inspiration image nonetheless. This is a great image for reference because I love the angle that she's at and the angle that we're shooting from. We're shooting from low to high, and she's kind of tilted over. It's just super vibey, super moody. This one's great too. She's kind of laying on the rock. It's just a cool posing idea as well. This one is just ridiculous. It's from Emma Tempest, who's an incredible photographer. We're not using this concept like the plastic and that sort of thing, but I love that she's got this sense of kind of flowy material and the scale of this mountain backdrop behind her. It's super minimal in the backdrop, which is something that I love and it's something that I'm going to be going for in this shoot. And so this was a really cool image to kind of reference, not because I'm taking the same idea at all, but just as a vibe and as a general mood for the shot. I also love the pose. It's kind of strange as well. I actually went to the tag of Enchanted Rock on Instagram, or actually the location, because I've never been out there. I wanted to just get a sense of like what it was I was going to be encountering and if there were like any must-see spots. You have to weed through a lot of selfies and whatnot and dog photos, but you get to kind of see that there are some really cool shapes, potential for really incredible landscape shots. Formations, something like that would be amazing. I love that. And so that's kind of what I was looking for when I was going through this location. It gave me a sense of what to match the wardrobe to, what kind of tones we were looking at. Which brings me to wardrobe. Let's talk wardrobe for a little bit. All right, so Erica and I have worked together for a while, maybe a couple years now, and I totally trust her. She's so talented. We had kind of spitballed back and forth some ideas. One of the things that I really wanted was these sort of earthy, natural solids. I was thinking about that in this stark landscape, it would be really cool, rather than to have really busy patterns, really just match the hues and colors of the landscape and of the rocks by just kind of having this sort of like monochromatic feel. And that was really all kind of like the idea that I gave her, and then she just handled everything. I actually didn't even get to look at the wardrobe beforehand. She sent me a couple of ideas, but I just trust her to the point where I knew she was gonna kill it, and of course she did. So that was really simple. Finding somebody on your team that's that talented, stylists that are talented, can be pretty hard to come by. So if you find a few good ones, make sure that you become friends with them, you add them to your team, you become collaborators, and you really give them creative freedom, because as much as you might have a vision, like I know what I want the InPhoto to look like, I also want to have some leeway and some flexibility to creative input from people that know more than I do about a subject. My favorite look was the kind of burnt orange suit. Man, it looked so cool. I knew I was gonna save that for the end when the sun was going down. It was really golden, it was hitting those red rocks, and would hopefully be super monochromatic. And we got pretty lucky, and that's what happened. So wardrobe was a huge part of this shoot, especially because it's a fashion editorial. Thankfully, it all worked out. Let's talk lighting real quick. I only took a B1 and a reflector because I knew that with the reflector, the B1, the sun, that would give me a 3-light setup, which is more than enough, because honestly, when you're talking editorial fashion, like editorial high-end fashion, you're not really talking about a lot of lighting and a lot of production. Now, if you're getting to the high-end advertising fashion work, of course, super high-end productions, tons of lighting, et cetera, et cetera. When you're talking about editorial out in nature, you're really just dealing with natural light and a reflector to kind of fill or bounce some light back in. A lot of times those editorials end up being pretty like underexposed or overexposed, incorrectly exposed. But the point is that the vibe and the emotion of the shot is there. Because we had to hike, it also made it easy not to have to carry a ton of gear, C-stands, a bunch of lights, et cetera, batteries, whatever it is, just to keep it light. The B1 is really great because you can just kind of throw it in your backpack or hold on to it. It's not that heavy, and worked out perfectly. All right, so let me show you what I got. So we're going super light today. I just got this Peak Design bag, which I love. It's got like a bunch of side access and top access and stuff. Makes it super easy to get lenses and a bunch of gear out. I'm shooting on my new A7R III with the 16 to 35 2.8 killer lens. Love that for wide angle stuff. I've got my 24 to 105, the new one, which is really dope. I've got this 7 Artisans 35 1.2. The reason I'm taking it is because it's so vibey and dreamy. So for the fashion editorial, it's just got vibe. So probably use that a little bit. Got my DJI Mavic Air just in case. Don't know if I'll use it or not, but it's so small, might as well take it. B1, between the ProPhoto B1, a reflector, and the sun, I've got a 3-light setup. So really can do just about anything with that guy. It'll overpower the sun or it will fill. So that's all I'm taking. Super easy. Now let's look at the post-production. I'll go through a couple of my favorite images and we'll just talk through how I kind of arrived at what was the final image. All right, y'all, so let's get into this this edit. I'm just gonna pick a few of my favorites. This first look was really cool. This texture on this dress is really awesome. Yeah, it's a cool shot. We're still kind of figuring things out. I had this 7 Artisans 35mm 1.2, which I didn't even think about, but it's for crop sensor, and then I put it on my A7R III, which like, when I put it on my A7 III, like of course it's not gonna work. It crops half the sensor, but it actually ends up doing like a really cool vignetting thing, which I thought was really vibey. Plus I love how like distorted it gets because it's a cheap manual lens around the edges. It just kind of lends itself to that super dreamy quality. Going through some of these images here, like tried to do some moving stuff. We'll take a look at this image first. I thought it was interesting, even though it's like super simple, just kind of more of a portrait. I just love kind of the expression. I love her hair hanging down. So we're in Capture One right now. Basically what I do is export variants straight to Photoshop. I export a PSD and go to the original RAW. So this actually isn't the original RAW. Let's see. That's the original RAW. You can kind of see some of my retouching. But this is the original RAW. I run a action that actually sets up a lot of these layers. These aren't particularly well organized, which is kind of embarrassing. Sometimes when I first start out, I'm just kind of doing a quick job just to kind of get a feel for tones and see what works. But I run a quick action, which basically creates like a blank layer for me to do retouching, dodge and burn, etc., etc. And then I go into Adobe Camera Raw. So a lot of you guys will use Lightroom. Pretty much Adobe Camera Raw is like identical to Lightroom. You'll see it here. The cool thing is when you create a smart object and use Adobe Lightroom, you can, Adobe Camera Raw within Photoshop, it basically just creates an editable file that's non-destructive. So you can go back and change any of these things at any time. Some skin retouching, I'll turn that on and off. It's just some white stuff. She has really incredible skin. This model, by the way, her name is Paige Rivas. She is with Kim Dawson in Dallas. She was a perfect fit for the shoot. And super sweet too. So I do a little bit of dodging and burning, didn't do much there. Honestly, like this image was really just in the toning. So you can see that like after some exposure adjustments, curves, color balance, I really pushed the warmth of this image. So a lot of like, you can see there are a lot of yellows in the highlights. There are a lot of reds in the shadows here. If I turn off this color balance, I mean the curves, you'll see how much red gets picked up in that shadow. See, I've like bumped up that red quite a bit. Just because it's an editorial and you can get away with some of those more fashiony kind of color toning. So that's that image. This one is that image in black and white, which I just thought was kind of cool. I just did a quick processing on that. So yeah, that's the first look. This image I thought was just kind of cool because it felt very like Lion King, like she's, you know, looking down. She's got that look of confidence on her face, plus just with the minimal backdrop. Like the sun is backlighting here, so it's basically blowing out the sky because I'm trying to expose a little bit more for the shadows, like to catch her face. And I just thought that was a cool vibey image. This one is cool, and I started to push into the color tones a little more. She's actually facing towards the sun now. But it was just kind of cool because of the texture of the rocks. I don't necessarily love like the pose. It's not like, it doesn't feel like anything really. So it's not an image I ended up with, but I think it's a cool look nonetheless. You can see I did some initial black and white processing in here just to kind of get a feel for it. All right, so we started to really like hit our stride when we got up to the mountain a little bit. We hiked up a little more and had this just epic backdrop for posing. So really I'm kind of creating this like hero shot where she's like huge in the frame. I'm shooting super wide. I'm at 16 millimeters here with my Sony 16-35 2.8, the G Master lens. I love that lens. And I'm trying to just get, honestly, just like really kind of crazy, weird movement. When I was editing, it really took me a while to kind of hit my stride and find like the vibe of the shoot. Once I started to get into these, it really kind of like landed for me. All right, yeah, so this shot I just freaking love. So you can see that this image is like already pretty moody. I've added in split toning some more yellows to highlights again. Didn't need to do a lot of retouching, honestly. Like this shot is already like almost there. So I did a little exposure adjustment to kind of separate the highlights and the shadows, make the blacks darker. In my fashion images, I really try to keep those blacks pretty true to black instead of like more faded tones. Hue saturation here, I think I'm just basically, you can see I'm basically just taking the sky and just pushing it a little more towards cyan, trying not to get too far into like that Instagram-y orange and cyan. Vibrance, vibrance I'm actually desaturating quite a bit just because, you know, that fashion look isn't super saturated. It's kind of more of like a moody, desaturated feel, and then you can kind of tone on top of it. So you can see after I've desaturated with the curves, I'm basically just adding a little bit of like yellow in here into the highlights again, a little bit of red in there, which kind of picks up in some of the mid-tones. One of my favorite ones was actually the first one I ended up editing, which was this pose. The posing and the direction I was giving Paige, I was really going for something that felt like super kind of weird and quirky. I am shooting with the 16, so if she puts her foot like right up to the camera, it looks like gargantuan, which generally you don't want. Everyone says, you know, you shoot portraits with telephoto lenses, or 85 to 100 or whatever it is. I love shooting portraits with wide angles. I feel like if you get the right amount of distortion in the right places, it actually adds a pretty like epic amount of energy to a shot. Now, that to say, if you distort the wrong thing, or if it gets too distorted, like it'll just look weird and not cool, just like weird for the sake of being weird. And this is weird for sure, but there is like kind of a magic to it. So cool. So there are a bunch of other ones. I like some of the movements here where she's jumping and twisting. And again, going back to the inspiration, you have the flowy material. Erica did a great job of kind of mixing like more structured suit wardrobe with some kind of flowy material as well. So I love this shot and I love the vibe of this. It looks like she's on Mars. It's really freaking cool. My only issue with this wardrobe is that, and this shot is that this wardrobe doesn't really fit the vibe of the rest of the shoot. There's sort of this like earth natural tone thing going on, and in this look it's like pinstripe suit and sweater. It's like almost like a little more nautical, or a little more formal, like a little more preppy. So even though it's a really cool look, great top, great pants, it wasn't quite fitting exactly with the rest of the shoot. So I dig the image, but it'd probably be more of a one-off. Here are some of the images from the top of the mountain where they have those reflective pools, those really shallow pools. As soon as I saw those, I was like getting low to the ground because I knew that was going to be kind of my angle for shooting, because I wanted that sort of reflection. And I was really looking for something like, if she's going to reflect in the pool, let's not have her just stand there. That would just be boring. You know, if we're going to see double of her, let's actually create some interesting shapes. So all right, so let's bring it on home. This image was like hands down, I think, my favorite image from the shoot. I just love this shape and just like the way that she stands out against the rocks, but also is like matching tonally. It's just, All right, so let's look at this one. This one, I mean, I can tell you right now, like my goal with these images was really not to F it up with the edit. I loved the way that it looked. It was really just about kind of bringing all the tones together without it feeling too heavy-handed. So honestly, I have an exposure, which really gets me a long way in terms of contrast, adding a little more punchy blacks. Let me turn that on and off again. And then vibrance. I think, again, desaturated -5 and high pass, sharpen. There you are. Oh, you can also see that. So I had to rotate this image, which kind of bugged me because I wanted to get this straight. And this was the framing that I wanted because I wanted to keep it wide to be able to see the V and the rocks. So I had some extra space on the sides, which I ended up just kind of filling with the stamp tool. All right, y'all, that was Make the Art episode 1, the inaugural episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to be doing this hopefully once a week. I have a couple shoots that I'm working on now to show you guys to release here in the coming weeks, and we'll continue to shoot more. Thank you so much. If you were into this thing, subscribe below. I'm trying to do basically like a tutorial each week, and a lot of people charge lots of money for these tutorials, but I just want you guys to have it. I want it to be a resource for you. I want you to be inspired and to go out and create an even better editorial than I created. If you dug it, I appreciate it. Subscribe, tell your friends, share it with your friends. I don't even know yet how to like get views on YouTube, so maybe just like text it to your friend. That's a thing, right? Cool, see you next time.